I strongly disagree with your characterization that the only way Hillary can win is to steal, quote unquote, the election. Here's the argument I would make to the superdelegates. Where has Barack Obama won? But in the caucus states, the only big state he's won is his home state of Illinois. She's won in Ohio. She's won in Texas, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, California, Florida, arguably. She can argue to the superdelegates that when you see that she had almost 250,000 more votes than Obama in Pennsylvania, clearly she's the stronger candidate. That's the argument I would make.
Geraldo, you and I both used to be liberal Democrats, and you and I both in 1968 and 1972 protested vigorously against the political bosses who gave the nomination to Hubert Humphrey as opposed to McCarthy and McGovern, who with Kennedy had run in the primaries. And we adopted the reforms that you and I pushed for in 1972 that said that the voters would control this nomination through a series of caucuses and primaries. Now, if those caucuses and primaries are purely advisory and the real decision is going to be made by an Estates General like Louis XVI had of the nobility of the party, the 800 superdelegates, and all it is advisory like primaries used to be, we will be rolling back the clock on 50 years of progress toward democracy in this country, and there will be hell to pay.
Don't you agree with my main point that Hillary Clinton has done a better job getting real voters in real primaries to vote for her than Barack Obama has?
No, absolutely not. In a whole series of votes, Barack Obama has won more states, and many of those are swing states. Missouri, last time I checked, was a pretty important swing state.
He won 2 counties in Missouri. He won St. Louis and Kansas City. That's all he won. She won the rest of the state.
That's all there is. Geraldo, rules are rules. And if a person steals the nomination by going to the political bosses and asking for their support in telling the young people and the African Americans and the others who voted for Barack Obama, I don't care who you voted for, I'm making the decision, and I'm giving the nomination to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Party will be so torn apart, you can't imagine that the nominee Hillary Clinton would ever win this election.
You mentioned our one-time, our poster child who we worshipped at his altar, George McGovern of South Dakota. I also remember the 60-40 trouncing in the general election and how bad Richard Nixon beat him. Isn't Barack Obama the new George McGovern?
Of course not. Are you saying to me, Geraldo, that you believe political candidates should be selected by the party bosses in smoke-filled rooms with cigar smoke and the hell with what the voters say? Is that your position?
My position is the caucus system is in itself a smoke-filled room.
Geraldo, I cannot believe that you are sitting here and telling me that superdelegates who are political bosses, congressmen, party chairman, the Mayor Daley's of the old vintage, or Carmine DeSapio, that those people are going to make the decision as to who the candidate is, and we don't care what the voters said. I can't believe that you're making that distinction. You've come a long way, Geraldo.
Dick, you twist in a clever way. What I'm suggesting is that Barack Obama...
I twist in a clever way when you say 800 people should make this decision.
Barack Obama is not leading among rank-and-file Democrats in this country, coast to coast.
No, he just won more delegates than she did following the rules. That's an inconvenient fact you want to ignore. You want to say,
she's won
the hell with what the voters decided.
The inconvenient fact that you want to ignore, Dick, is Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Florida, California.
Who's won more pop?
Those are the states that the Democrats need in November.
If you exclude
Michigan,
where he basically was told to get off the ballot and Hillary won it because she was the only candidate running, and you exclude Florida where they told people not to vote.
Listen, I don't care about Florida will work itself out. Michigan will work itself out. Do you believe Barack Obama can win in November?
Out of it, and
can Barack Obama win in November?
Of course he can. And Barack Obama won 1 million more votes than Hillary Clinton did.
How will Barack Obama put together a coalition that wins?
He'll do it the same way he carried states that have no black population because of his appeal. Now, I'm not saying I'm voting for him in November. I think McCain's an awfully good candidate. But I'm telling you that the principle of the people selecting the President of the United States, which is essentially what we're talking about, is more important than anything else. And I'm shocked that you are willing to throw that away and let the bosses make the decision.
I totally reject your characterization. And if you,
what do you think those 800 people are?
Do you believe that Barack Obama is more electable than Hillary Clinton? And how much personal antipathy toward her affects your political judgment?
That's not your decision to make. We live in a democracy, Geraldo. You ever heard of that? Elections,
and what about how much of your personal antipathy to the Clintons affects your judgment?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. My personal antipathy here is that I was in the streets of Chicago with you in 1968 demanding procedural democracy in our political system. We have 800 people who nobody selects who make the decision, and the 35 million people who voted can go to hell. That's tremendously progressive.
Let's assume that Hillary does she'll carry Puerto Rico, she'll win in Indiana, she's probably way ahead there even though the polls don't reflect it yet.
If you're making this argument, Puerto Rico doesn't even have any electoral votes.
But they have delegates.
Yeah.
Then the delegates count and the delegate count.
Based on who has
I want Puerto Rico to be a state. That's another discussion we can have, perhaps as emotional. But if she does win an average of 10%, would you still maintain that she has stolen the nomination if she gets it?
Of course. After she does all of that, Obama will still lead by 110 or 120 elected delegates.
And you would be scornful of the superdelegates who voted for her because they believe that she's more electable than Barack Obama.
Absolutely. Neither they nor you should put their opinions ahead of the opinions of 35 million Americans.
And what if her popular vote total by then what if she's ahead by 1 million votes in the popular count by then?
A, she won't be if you don't count Michigan and Florida, and B, if she were, rules are rules. Each state voted according to its own rules, and according to those rules, Obama not only won, he trounced her by more than 100 votes.
So in the popular vote count, were she to beat Obama soundly in the popular vote count, if he had 100 more delegates, you would say he, of necessity, should get the nomination?
I would say that he won, yeah. What would you call it, losing?
I would say that she'd have an argument to the superdelegates that if their job is, as it's currently defined, however, for good or ill, is to do something for the good of the party, so-called,
their job
they would have some flexibility.
The will of the electorate. The job is to ignore the will of the electorate, substitute their judgment for that of their voters.
But
I look forward
now you're scornful of the superdelegates at all, but we have the superdelegates to live with.
I look forward to any congressman who votes for one candidate when his district voted for another in a primary fight against him. And I think he's going to have a hell of a time explaining to the voters of his district in a Democratic primary fight against him why he chose to ignore and reverse their decision.
Is Bill Clinton a racist?
No, absolutely not.
So how do you characterize Congressman Clyburn's statements about the Clintons and the destruction they're wreaking?
I don't agree with that. I think Bill Clinton is, saying in public the kind of anger he used to do in private, but there's no man I've ever met that is less a racist than William Jefferson Clinton.
On that we agree. Dick Morris, always a pleasure. Really is so a pleasure. We'll be right back after this.